Thank you. State, do you want to call your first witness?
Yes, Judge, we call Mr. Perfetti.
With the court's permission, may I move the lectern up so I can?
Of course. Sure.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Everybody can see, correct? All the defense attorneys, everybody can see, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Breen, Mr. Breen, Mr. Pugh,
Yes.
Mr. Fahey. Okay. I'm sorry? I'm sorry?
Yeah,
I will. Put your name on the record,
Brian
please.
Watson on behalf of the state.
Thank you. If you could do that each and every time for the court reporter, because there are many parties involved here.
With the court's permission, the state has also prepared binders with the state's exhibits. I may approach and provide a court copy.
Any objection on behalf of Mr. March?
No.
Any objection on behalf of Mr. Walsh?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Any objection on behalf of Mr. Gaffney?
No.
All right, I'll receive those then. Thank you.
Your Honor, I've also tendered copies of the same binder that we provided the court to all defense counsel. May I also provide a copy of the exhibits that will be identified and shown, which are also in the court's copy and also in defense counsel's copies to the witness.
Any objection for the witness having a binder of the exhibits to be used for his testimony on behalf of Mr. March,
No.
on behalf of Mr. Walsh, on behalf of Mr. Gaffney?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you can tender the binder.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Could you please introduce yourself and spell your name?
Joseph Perfetti, Perfetti.
Mr. Perfetti, where do you work?
I work for the Chicago Police Department.
What is your job at the Chicago Police Department?
I am the director of the Record Services Division.
How long have you been the director?
I've been a director since August of 2008.
How long have you worked for the Chicago Police Department?
I began in the police department in July of 2000.
Briefly, could you tell the court what the Records Services Division is?
Yes. The Record Services Division is comprised of two units, one being the Field Services section and the other being the Records Inquiry section. The Field Services section is a support unit for the Bureau of Patrol and the Bureau of Detectives. It does a lot of administrative work as far as warrants and fingerprint backgrounds. The Records Inquiry section is responsible for the dissemination and maintenance of such things as case reports, traffic crash reports. They also take in subpoenas and have granted.
Mr. Perfetti, is the Records Services Division responsible for the management of criminal records and official police reports?
Yes,
Are you a civilian member of the Chicago Police Department?
I am a civilian member.
As a civilian member, are you required to obey all laws and execute all lawful orders of the department?
Yes,
Are you also bound by the policies, rules, regulation, orders, procedures, and directives of the department?
yes,
You take your job as the record director of the Record Services Division seriously.
of course, yes.
Let's provide the court with an overview of your testimony. First, are you able to testify about information furnished in official police reports to the Chicago Police Department?
Yes,
Second, are you able to testify about the detective investigative and permanent retention file of the Chicago Police Department?
yes.
Let's start with the first point, the information furnished in official police reports to the Chicago Police Department. With the court's permission, may I show People's Exhibit March Case Incident 1 to the witness and ask the witness to open the binder and turn to the first tab.
Yes. You can do that. I'm sorry, which one did, March case incident 1?
If I may show People's Exhibit March Case Incident 1 to the witness, which is tab 1.
Tab 1. Thank you.
Mr. Perfetti, I'm showing you March Case Incident 1. What is that?
This is the original case incident report with an RD number of HX 486155.
What is a case incident report?
A case incident report is basically a report that the officer will take when called to the scene.
Is March Case Incident 1 an official report and record of the Chicago Police Department?
Yes.
On page 2, if you could turn to page 2, Mr. Perfetti, who submitted March Case Incident 1 as the reporting officer?
The reporting officer is David Marsh.
When did Defendant March submit March Case Incident
21 October 2014 at 21:05 hours.
1? Above Defendant March, who approved March Case Incident 1?
The approving supervisor was Daniel Gallagher.
When did Daniel Gallagher approve March Case Incident 1?
29 October 2014, 22:06 hours.
Your Honor, the state offers People's Exhibit March Case Incident 1 in evidence.
Any objection on behalf of Mr. March?
No.
On behalf of Mr. Walsh?
No, Your Honor.
On behalf of Mr. Gaffney?
No, Your Honor.
All right, People's Exhibit number 1 is admitted into evidence. Identification mark is stricken.
Turning back to page 1. What date and time did Defendant March report for this incident?
The occurrence date was 20 October 2014 at 21:47 hours.
Who did Defendant March report as the suspect?
The suspect was Laquan McDonald.
You could turn to page 2 of the case incident report. Who did Defendant March report as additional victims?
Additional victims were Thomas Gaffney, Jason Van Dyke, Joseph Walsh.
Under investigation of the case incident report, did Defendant March report that, quote, McDonald committed aggravated assault against the 3 officers, finally forcing Officer Van Dyke, in defense of his life, to shoot and kill McDonald?
Yes.
What did Defendant March report next?
Details of this investigation are reported under the homicide/justifiable recorded in the records division number HX 475653.
Let's talk briefly about that. What is a records division number?
Records division number is an RD number. It's basically a number that is assigned for each original case incident report.
You've seen original case incident reports for homicide before, is that right?
Yes.
For a homicide records division number, what official reports and police records are kept?
For a homicide, all reports and records, the original case, any supplementary reports, GPRs, any sort of crime scene process reports, basically any report generated for that specific case would be kept.
How long are reports and official records kept?
For a homicide, it'd be a permanent retention record, so indefinitely.
How is that different than another crime, such as an assault?
An incident such an assault, per our retention schedule, would have a retention period of 7 years.
So as we see in this report, under records division number HX 475653, Defendant March states the details of the investigation of a homicide justifiable for reported. Is that right?
Yes,
That's in October 29th of 2014, right?
yes.
Where in a police report for an incident is it classified as a homicide?
And in the original case incident report, it will be right by the IUCR code.
And IUCR is the Illinois Uniform Crime Reporting Field, or the Illinois Crime Reporting Number. Is that right?
Correct.
Where in a police report is the victim identified for a homicide?
The victim would be under the family relationship.
Where is the offender identified for a homicide?
Under suspect.
Defendant March furnished the information in People's Exhibit, March 3, Incident 1 to the Chicago Police Department. Is that right?
Yes,
With the court's permission, may I show People's Exhibit Fontaine Case Incident 1 to the witness? This is tab 2, Your Honor.
Any objection on behalf of Mr. March?
No.
Any objection on behalf of Mr. Walsh? Any objection on behalf of Mr. Gaffney?
Okay.
All right, you can show it to the witness.
Mr. Perfetti, I'm showing you Fontaine Case Incident 1. What is that?
it's an original case incident report for RD number HX 475653.
That's the RD number that we just discussed that defendant March identified according to the fire report as a justifiable homicide. Is that right?
Yes,
Is Fontaine Case Incident 1 an official report of the Chicago Police Department?
yes,
Is HX 475653 actually classified as a homicide on the top right-hand side?
no.
How is the incident classified?
As an assault, aggravated PO, knife/cut instrument.
Not a homicide.
No,
Where is the reported address for the occurrence?
the current location is 4000 South Carlove Avenue, Chicago, Illinois.
What is the reported date and time for the occurrence?
The current date is 20 October 2014, 21:56 hours.
As you go down page 1 of Fontaine Case Incident 1, who are the reported victims?
The victims would be P.O. Gaffney, P.O. Van Dyke, P.O. Walsh.
Farther down the page of case in Fontaine Case Incident 1, what is the reported injury?
Injured by offender.
Who is reportedly injured by offender?
P.O. Van Dyke.
Who is the reported suspect?
Laquan McDonald.
Mr. Perfetti, could you turn to page 2? In the middle of the page, on the right-hand side, what is the description of the damage?
The damage description is tires flat, front windshield scratched.
Could you turn to page 4, please? On page 4, What is the first line of the narrative?
Basis of event number 15878 referred to Detective Division supplementary report.
On the last page of the report, who is the reporting officer?
Reporting officer is John Fontaine.
Dora Fontaine?
Yes.
Who is the reporting detective for the report?
Objection, this statement of the report, Judge. It doesn't say reporting detective.
That objection is sustained in looking at the exhibit.
Thank you, Your Honor. Who is the detective identified on the report?
Detective / investigator is David Marsh.
What date and time is indicated next to David Marsh's signature, star number, and PC number?
21 October 2014, 15:01 hours.
Your Honor, the state offers People's Exhibit Fontaine, case exhibit 1.
Would that be People's Exhibit number 2? Is that right?
We've identified them by description because it is easier for the court. We can follow by exhibit numbers. We've identified them with descriptions and we expect to elicit testimony consistent with the descriptions.
I'll do it that way because it's actually looks to be very organized. And that way the record is very clear. Any objection to the admission on behalf of Mr. March?
No.
Any objection on behalf of Mr. Walsh? Any objection on behalf of Mr. Gaffney?
No, Judge.
All right, then that exhibit, I think it was Dora, let's see. I think you said Dora Fontaine.
Fontaine, case incident 1, Your Honor.
Case incident 1 is admitted. The identification mark is stricken.
With the court's permission, may I show People's Exhibit March case sub to the witness, which is tab 3.
Okay, any objection on behalf of Mr. March?
No.
On behalf of Mr. Walsh?
No, Your Honor.
On behalf of Mr. Gaffney? All right, you can,
Your Honor.
yes, sir.
Like, there'll be no objection unless you speak up. Would that be better?
That would be great.
Done.
Same for Mr.
One in that, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Fahey.
Same here, Judge.
Great, just trying to make a great record. Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Perfetti, I am showing you March case sub 1. What is that?
This is a case supplementary report for ID number HX 475653.
Briefly, what is a case supplementary report?
Supplementary report basically is a report that detectives use when to basically conduct a result investigation, or if there's any new discoveries, they would document this on the supplementary report.
Is People's Exhibit March case sub 1 an official report of the Chicago Police Department?
Yes.
On the top left-hand side of the report, who is the reporting officer?
The reporting officer is David Marsh.
When did defendant March submit this report?
Date submitted is 15 March 2015 at 18:23 hours.
To the right of David March, who approved this report?
The approving supervisor is Anthony Wojcik.
When did Anthony Wojcik approve the report?
16 March 2015 at 0:03 hours.
Could you turn to the last page, page 23, and let me know when you're there?
Okay.
On page 23, who is the report of or by?
Report of Detective David M. Marsh, Sergeant Daniel Gallagher, Lieutenant Anthony Wojcik, Bureau Detectives, Area Central.
Now, the state offers March case sub 1 into evidence.
Any objection on behalf of Mr. March?
No.
Mr. Walsh? Mr. Gaffney? Any objection?
I have no objection.
All right, then the identification mark is stricken. It will be admitted.
Mr. Perfetti, could you turn back to page 1 and let me know when you're there?
Mayor.
What is the reported date? What is the reported date and time for this exhibit?
The date of occurrence?
Yes.
The date of occurrence is 20 October 2014, 21:57 hours.
What's the RD number?
The ID number is HX 475653.
Is HX 475653 what defendant March reported as a homicide justifiable back in October 2014?
Yes.
Is this report classified as a homicide justifiable?
No.
How did defendant March classify this incident?
As an assault aggravated PO knife/cut instrument.
On page 1 of the report, who did defendant March report as the victim?
Victims were Thomas Gaffney, Jason Van Dyke, Joseph Walsh. And Joseph McElliott.
And you're referring to Joseph McElliott appearing on the second page of the report
Yes.
as a victim.
Yes.
Who did defendant March report as the offender?
The offender is Laquan McDonald.
Mr. Perfetti, could you turn to page 3 and let me know when you're there?
Okay.
What did defendant March report next to the just or justifiable homicide description?
Criminal killed by a police officer.
What did defendant March report in the next line under or next to additional justifiable homicide description?
Criminal attacked officer. Then that officer killed criminal.
Could you turn to page 8 of the report and let me know when you were there?
Okay.
What did defendant March report for the Illinois Uniform Crime Reporting, or IUCR Association?
Assault aggravated PO knife/cut instrument.
Who did he identify? Who did defendant March identify under those associations?
As the victims?
As the victims and the offender.
Victim Thomas Gaffney, offender Laquan McDonald, victim Joseph McElliott, offender Laquan McDonald, victim Jason Van Dyke, offender Laquan McDonald, victim Joseph Walsh, offender Laquan McDonald.
Could you turn to page 10 of the report and let me know when you're there?
Okay.
Mr. Perfetti, who did defendant March report as the victims on page 10 of the report?
Jason Van Dyke, Joseph Walsh. And then on page 11, Thomas Gaffney and Joseph McElliott.
If you turn to page 14, and let me know when you're there again.
Okay.
Beginning on page 14 at the bottom, what did defendant March report under manner/motive?
Under manner/motive, Laquan McDonald was shot and killed by Chicago police officer Jason Van Dyke while McDonald was committing an, and next page, aggravated assault with a knife against Officer Van Dyke and his partner, Chicago police officer Joseph Walsh. McDonald also committed an aggravated assault with a knife against Chicago police officers Thomas Gaffney and Joseph McElliott when McDonald stabbed the right front tire and windshield of their police vehicle, and an aggravated assault with a knife against civilian Rudy Bareilles immediately prior to being confronted by officers Van Dyke and Walsh / police officer interceding in a felony in the line of duty defense of life, offender apparently attempting to defeat arrest.
Did defendant March furnish the information in exhibit March case sub 1 to the Chicago Police Department?
Yes.
With the court's permission, may I show People's exhibit March case sub 2 to the witness, which is tab 4.
Yes.
Mr. Perfetti, I'm showing you what has been marked as March case sub 2. What is it?
It's a case supplementary report for RD number HX 475653.
Is March case sub 2 an official report of the Chicago Police Department?
Yes.
On the first page, who is the reporting officer?
The reporting officer is David Marsh.
When did defendant March submit this report?
The date submitted was 15 March 2015, 18:26 hours.
Next to defendant March, who approved the report?
Anthony Wojcik,
When did Anthony Wojcik approve the report?
16 March 2015.
Could you turn to the last page, page 22, and let me know when you're there?
Here.
On the last page, who is the report by or of?
Report of Detective David M. Marsh, Sergeant Daniel Gallagher, Lieutenant Anthony Wojcik, Bureau Detectives, Area Central.
The state offers March case sub 2. If you have it.
Any objection on behalf of Mr. March,
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Walsh,
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Gaffney?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the identification mark is struck in. It will be admitted.
Mr. Perfetti, could you go back to page 1 and let us know what the reported date and time of the incident?
Date of occurrence is 20 October 2014, 21:57 hours. And the address of occurrence is 4112 South Glasgow Road.
What's the RG number?
The OD number is HX 475653.
Is that the same RG number that defendant March classified as a homicide justifiable back in October 2014?
Yes.
How is this report actually classified?
Assault / aggravated PO, knife / cut instrument.
Who did defendant March report as the victim?
Thomas Gaffney, Joseph McElliott, Jason Van Dyke, Joseph Walsh.
Who did defendant March report as the offender?
Laquan McDonald.
Could you go to page 7 of the report? And tell us what defendant March reported as the Illinois Uniform Crime Reporting, or IUCR associations in this report.
Assault dash aggravated PO knife / cut instrument.
Mr. Perfetti, who did defendant March report as the victim and the offender under the IUCR association or crime reporting association of assault aggravated PO?
Victim Thomas Gaffney, offender Laquan McDonald, victim Joseph McElliott, offender Laquan McDonald, offender Laquan McDonald, victim Jason Van Dyke, offender Laquan McDonald, victim Joseph Walsh.
Now, with the court's permission, may I get Mr. Perfetti some water?
Do you need water?
No, okay.
Is okay? If you do, will you let us know?
I will.
Okay,
Thank you.
so that's denied.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Perfetti, could you turn to page 19 of the report and let us know when you're there?
Okay.
In the middle of page 19 of the report, did defendant March state the recovered in-car camera video from beats 845R and 813R was viewed and found to be consistent with the accounts of all of the witnesses?
Yes.
Let's talk about the accounts of all the witnesses, beginning on the bottom of page 8. What did defendant March state under investigation?
Under investigation, the reporting detective was assigned to the immediate follow-up investigation of this police officer about shooting incident by Sergeant Dan Gallagher of this command. The reporting detective proceeded to the scene of the incident at 4112 South Pulaski Road. The officer involved in the shooting was located and interviewed at the scene.
Turning to the next page, page 9 of the report. Did defendant March provide a statement or account by Jason Van Dyke?
As stated.
What did defendant March report after Van Dyke, Jason, he stated? And if we go further down the summary, beginning with the 4th paragraph, he was swinging.
He was swinging the knife in an aggressive, exaggerated manner. Van Dyke ordered McDonald to drop the knife multiple times. McDonald ignored Van Dyke's verbal direction, dropped the knife, and continued to advance toward Van Dyke.
I'm going to ask you when you read to read a little bit slower so we can make sure the court reporter gets it down, okay? Because you seem to speed up when you're reading.
Okay.
Thank you.
In that final paragraph, what did defendant March report next?
When McDonald got to within 10 to 15 feet of Officer Van Dyke, McDonald looked toward Van Dyke.
What did he state next?
McDonald raised the knife across his chest and over his shoulder, pointing the knife at Van Dyke.
What did defendant March report next?
Van Dyke believed McDonald was attacking Van Dyke with the knife and attempting to kill Van Dyke.
What did defendant March report next?
In defense of his life, Van Dyke backpedaled and fired his handgun at McDonald to stop the attack.
What did he report next?
McDonald fell to the ground, but continued to move and continued to grasp the knife, refusing to let it go of it.
What did defendant March report next?
Van Dyke continued to fire his weapon at McDonald as McDonald was on the ground, as McDonald appeared to be attempting to get up, all the while continuing to point the knife at Van Dyke.
What did defendant March report next?
The slide on Van Dyke's pistol locked in the rearward position, indicating the weapon was empty.
What did defendant March report next that Jason Van Dyke did?
Van Dyke performed a tactical reload of his pistol with a new magazine and then assessed the situation.
Turning to page 10. Did defendant March report a statement by Joseph Dyke?
I'm gonna object. We have the rest of Van Dyke's statement, right, just for completeness.
You could do that on cross if you want.
Very good, thank you.
So your objection's noted but overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Perfetti, did defendant March report a statement by defendant Walsh?
Yes.
What did defendant March report in the first paragraph?
Stated he was a Chicago police officer assigned to the 8th District. Walsh related the same facts as his partner, Officer Jason Van Dyke.
Further down of defendant March's report of defendant Walsh's statement, did it state Walsh ordered McDonald to drop the knife multiple times as McDonald approached the officers?
Yes.
What did defendant March report in the next paragraph?
Officer Walsh also backed up, attempting to maintain a safe distance between himself and McDonald. McDonald ignored the verbal direction given by both Walsh and Officer Van Dyke and continued to advance toward the officers. When McDonald got to within 12 to 15 feet of the officers, he swung the knife toward the officers in an aggressive manner. Van Dyke opened fire with his handgun and McDonald fell to the ground. Van Dyke continued firing his weapon at McDonald as McDonald continued moving on the ground, attempting to get up while still armed with the knife.
Could you turn to page 22 and let us know when you're there?
Okay.
In the report and the paragraph beginning based upon all the facts known at this time, what did defendant March state?
Based upon all the facts known at this time and the death of the only offender in this incident, this case is now exceptionally clear closed / other exceptional clearance, death of offender.
Did it state only offender?
Death of offender.
What did defendant March report in the next paragraph?
The above-to-date investigation determined that LaQuan McDonald was an active assailant who, while armed with a dangerous weapon, used force likely to cause death or serious injury to a private citizen when he attacked Rudy Barillas, threatened the imminent use of force likely to cause death or serious injury when he incised the tire and stabbed the windshield of Chicago Police Department vehicle occupied by Officer Thomas Gaffney, and initiated imminent use of force likely to cause death or serious injury when he initiated an attack on officers Jason Van Dyke and Joseph Walsh. The above investigation concluded that Officer Jason Van Dyke's use of deadly force, the discharging of his duty firearm, was within the bounds of Chicago Police Department's use of force guidelines and in conformity with local ordinances and state law.
Did defendant March furnish the information, People's Exhibit, March case stub 2, to the Chicago Police Department?
Yes.
With the court's permission, may I show the witness People's Exhibit March case stub 3,
Yes,
which is tab 5 of the binder?
thank you.
Mr. Perfetti, I'm showing you March case stub 3. What is that?
It's a case supplementary report, RG number HX 475653.
Is March case sub 3 an official report of the Chicago Police Department?
Yes.
And again, on the first page, who is the reporting officer?
The reporting officer is David Marsh.
When did defendant March submit March case sub 3?
Date submitted 11 September 2015, 2140 hours.
What is the reported date and time of the occurrence?
The date of occurrence is 20 October 2014, 2157 hours.
Who approved March case sub 3?
The approving supervisor was Anthony Wojcik.
When did Anthony Wojcik approve March case sub 3?
12 September 2015.
Could you turn to the last page, page 9 of the report, and let us know when you're ready?
I'm here.
Who is the report by or of on page 9?
Report of Detective David M. Marsh, Bureau of Detectives, Area Central.
Your Honor, the state offers March case sub 3.
Any objection on behalf of Mr. March?
No, Your Honor.
On behalf of Mr. Walsh?
No, Your Honor.
On behalf of Mr. Gaffney?
No, thank you.
All right, the identification mark is stricken. It is admitted.
Mr. Perfetti, turning back to the first page of the report, what is the RG number?
RG number is HX 475653.
Is HX 475-653 the same RG number that defendant March classified as a homicide justifiable back in October of 2014?
Yes.
In this report, what is the incident actually classified as?
Assault / aggravated PO knife / cut instrument.
Again, who are the reported victims by defendant March?
Thomas Gaffney, Joseph McElliott, Jason Van Dyke, Joseph Walsh.
Who did defendant March report as the offender?
Laquan McDonald.
Could you turn to page 7, Mr. Perfetti, and let us know when you're on page 7?
Okay.
What did defendant March report as the Illinois Uniform Crime Reporting, or IUCR, Association?
Assault dash aggravated PL knife / cut instrument.
Who did defendant March identify as the victim and offender of that aggravated PO knife cut instrument?
Okay. Victim Thomas Gaffney, offender Laquan McDonald, victim Joseph McElliott, offender Laquan McDonald, offender Laquan McDonald, victim Jason Van Dyke, offender Laquan McDonald, victim Joseph Walsh.
Could you turn to page 8, Mr. Perfetti, and let us know when you're on page 8 of the report?
Yeah.
Under investigation, what did defendant March report in the first paragraph?
The reporting detective received a copy of the complete report of postmortem examination from the officer of the medical examiner of Cook County regarding this case. The report detailed all of the studies and examination conducted by the office of the medical examiner.
Defendant March furnished the information in People's Exhibit March Case Sub 3 to the Chicago.
Yes.
With the court's permission, may I show to the witness People's Exhibit March GPR 1?
Yes, you may. And that's tab 6.
6 of the binder here. Mr. Perfetti, I'm showing you March GPR 1. What is that?
This is a general progress report.
Briefly, what is a general progress report?
This is a report detectives use to take notes down in regards to investigation.
Is March GPR 1 an official Chicago police report?
Yes.
On the bottom of page 1, who submitted March GPR 1? That's the reporting officer.
David Marsh.
On the top right-hand side, what is the reported date and watch of the report?
20 October 2014.
And third watch. Is that right?
Yes, third watch.
What did defendant March report on the first line?
D. Fontaine.
And under D. Fontaine, defendant March reported additional. Is that right?
Yes.
Defendant March reported that information to the Chicago Police Department.
Yes.
State offers People's Exhibit March GPR 1.
Thank you. Yes, first of all, Mr. McKay had no objection on behalf of Mr. March. Mr. Pugh.
Judge, on behalf of Mr. Walsh, up until this point, we have been emitting statements they should at this point in time clear, but I'm established statements and therefore considered against the other defendants in this case. I know this was a subject of pretrial litigation, but for clarity of the record, I think it's important for us to lodge that they be accepted with petitioner of this as Mr. Walsh.
Your objection is noted. It's overruled at this time. However, I will only consider evidence that's relevant or proper for each specific offense. Okay. Your objection is noted, my ruling is the same. So the identification mark is stricken and it's admitted.
With the court's permission, may I show People's Exhibit witness, which is
Yes,
Mr. Perfetti, I'm showing you People's Exhibit, March GPR 2. What is that?
Trial practice report for RD number HX 475653.
March GPR 2 and official Chicago.
Yes,
On the bottom left-hand side, who submitted March GPR 2 as the reporting officer?
David Marsh.
On the top right-hand side, what is the reported date and watch of the report?
20 October 2014, third watch.
Your Honor, the state offers People's Exhibit March GPR 2.
any objection, Mr. McKay?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Pugh?
Only with the caveat.
Okay, so your objection is noted but overruled for the same reasons. Mr. Fahey, same thing?
Yes.
All right, noted. You may, the identification marks are stricken and it is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Perfetti, what did defendant March report on the first line?
Jay Walsh.
Under J. Walsh, on page 1, the defendant March report that, quote, Walsh backed up, attempting to maintain safe distance.
Yes,
Under J. Walsh, on page 1, the defendant March also report that O, in four directions, continued to advance.
yes,
Under J. Walsh, on page 1, the defendant March also report that, quote, at 12-15 feet, O swung knife at POs in aggressive manner.
yes.
Could you turn to page 2? On page 2 of the report, under J. Walsh, the defendant March report that, quote, "BD continued firing as O continued moving, attempting to get up, still armed."
Yes,
The defendant March also report that, quote, attempting to kill POs when shots fired.
yes,
Defendant March reported this information under J. Walsh, the Chicago Police Department.
yes,
With the court's permission, may I also show to the witness People's Exhibit March GPR 3, which is tab 8 of the file.
Yes,
Mr. Showing you People's Exhibit March GPR 3. What is that?
trial practice report for RD number HX 475653.
Is March GPR 3 an official Chicago Police report?
Yes,
On the bottom left-hand side, who submitted March GPR 3 as the reporting officer?
David Marsh.
On the top right-hand side, what is the reported date and watch of the report?
20 October 2014, third watch.
Your Honor, the state offers GPR 3 in evidence.
any objection, Mr. McKay?
No, Your Honor.
Any objection, Mr. Pugh?
Same objection.
Your objection is noted but overruled, same ruling.
Same objection.
All right, your objection is noted but overruled at this time for the same reasons the court previously stated. So you asked to admit it, correct? Oh, is that correct? You have to answer out loud for the court
Yes.
reporter. Thank you. So March GPR 3, the identification marks are stricken and it is admitted.
What did defendant March report on the first line of this report?
Jay Van Dyke.
Go to page 2. Under J. Van Dyke on page 2, the defendant March report, quote, knife in our hand underhand grip,
But I'm good about this.
swinging knife in aggressive, exaggerated manner.
Yes.
Under J. Van Dyke on page 2, the defendant March also reported, quote, O ignored directions, continued to advance.
Yes.
Under J. Van Dyke on page 2, did defendant March also report, quote, when O within 10-15 feet looked at VD, raised knife across chest, over shoulder, pointed knife at VD.
Yes.
Under J. Van Dyke, the defendant March also report, quote, trying to kill VD.
Yes.
The defendant March report under J. Van Dyke, quote, in defense of his life, VD backpedaled and fired.
Yes.
Under J. Van Dyke on page 2, the defendant March also report, quote, O appeared to be attempting to get up, still holding knife, pointed at VD.
Yes.
Defendant March reported this information under J. Van Dyke to the Chicago Police Department. Is that right?
Yes.
With the court's permission, may I show People's Exhibit, State Police Report 1 to the witness, which is tab 9.
Yes.
Mr. Perfetti, I am showing you State Police Report 1. What is that?
It's an evidence submission form for Chicago Police Department.
To the Illinois State Police?
Yes.
Is State Police Report 1 an official report of the Chicago Police Department?
Yes.
On the right-hand side, who is the submitting detective?
David Marsh.
Your Honor, the state offers People's Exhibit, State Police Report 1 in evidence.
Any objection on behalf of Mr. March?
No,
Mr. Pugh, any objection?
that's the objection that we have.
All right, same ruling. Mr. Beatty?
Same objection.
All right, same ruling. Okay, the identification mark is stricken. It will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. What did defendant March report in case information?
Incident ID number HX 475653. The date of offense 20 October 2014. The offense is 0150 homicide, justifiable homicide. Address is 4112 South Pulaski Road, Chicago, Illinois.
Who did defendant March identify as the suspect?
Suspect is Quan McDonald.
Who did defendant March identify as the victim?
P.O. Gaffney Thomas, P.O. Van Dyke Jason, P.O. Walsh Joseph.
Turning to page 2, Mr. Perfetti, what did defendant March report under detective comments in the first sentence of the second paragraph?
The offender, Quan McDonald, assaulted the 3 victim Chicago police officers with a knife and was shot and killed by victim police officer Jason Van Dyke.
Defendant March furnished this information to the
Yes.
Chicago Police Department.
Yes.
With the court's permission, may I show People's Exhibit, State Police Report 2?
Yes. Is that tab 10?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Perfetti, I'm showing you State Police Report 2. What is that?
And it's the evidence submission form for Chicago Police Department.
Is State Police Report 2 an official report of the Chicago Police Department?
Yes.
Who is the submitting detective?
David Marsh.
Your Honor, the state offers People's Exhibit, State Police Report 2 in evidence.
Any objection, Mr. McKay?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Pugh?
Objection same.
Ruling's the same. Mr. Fahey, any objection? All right, your objection is noted. Ruling is the same as the previous ruling. The identification marks are stricken and State Police Report 2 is admitted.
What did defendant Marks report in case information?
That the incident number is HX 475653, date of offense 20 October 2014. The offense is 0150, homicide, justifiable homicide, address 4112 South Pulaski Road, Chicago, Illinois.
That's the same RG number that defendant March reported as a justifiable homicide back in October of 2014.
Yes.
Who did defendant March identify as the suspect?
The suspect is Laquan McDonald,
Who did defendant March identify as the victim?
P.O. Gaffney Thomas, P.O. Van Dyke Jason, P.O. Walsh Joseph.
And again, on page 2 of the report, what did defendant March state under detective comment in the first sentence of the second paragraph?
The offender, Laquan McDonald, assaulted the 3 victims, Chicago police officers, with a knife and was shot and killed by victim police officer Jason Van Dyke.
Defendant March furnished this information to the Chicago Police Department.
Yes.
With the court's permission, may I show People's Exhibit Walsh TR1 to the witness?
Yes.
Mr. Perfetti, I'm showing
Just
you
for the record, what tab is that?
tab 11. Your Honor.
Thank you.
Mr. Perfetti, under tab 11, I'm showing you Walsh TR1. What is that?
Tactical response report under RD number HX 475653.
Is Walsh TR1 an official police report of the Chicago Police Department?
Yes.
On the bottom, who submitted Walsh TR1 as the reporting number?
Joseph Walsh.
When did defendant Walsh submit Walsh TR1?
21 October 2014, 0504 hours.
Your Honor, the state offers People's Exhibit Walsh TR1 in evidence.
Any objection, Mr. McKay?
Judge, consistent with Mr. Pugh, absent any evidence that there's a conspiracy, I would object to the admission of this exhibit by.
Okay, thank you. And on behalf of Mr. Walsh, any objection?
No objection.
On behalf of Mr. Fahey, same objection?
Same objection.
Okay, your objections are noted. They're overruled at this time. So the identification mark is stricken and it will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. On the top of Walsh TR1, what date and time did defendant Walsh report for the incident?
20 October 2014,
What address did defendant Walsh report?
4112 South Pulaski Road, Chicago, Illinois.
Did defendant Walsh report anything in the section of the member involved?
Yes.
Who did defendant Walsh report as the member involved?
Joseph Walsh.
Did defendant Walsh report anything for the subject?
Yes.
Who did defendant Walsh report as the subject?
Laquan McDonald.
On the middle of page 1, do you see the reason for use of force section?
Yes.
Did defendant Walsh report or mark any information in the reason for use of force section?
Yes.
Do you see the subject's actions in the reason for use of force section?
Yes.
In the subject's action section, did defendant Walsh report anything under active resistance?
Not under active resistor.
Did defendant Walsh report the subject had, quote, fled under active resistance?
No.
Did defendant Walsh report anything in the other field under active resistor?
No.
Did defendant Walsh report anything under the assailant assault section?
Yes.
What did defendant Walsh report under the assailant assault section?
The checkbox for imminent threat of battery.
Did defendant Walsh report anything in the other field in assailant assault?
No.
In the next section to the right-hand side, do you see a separate section labeled assailant battery?
Yes.
Did defendant Walsh mark anything under the section assailant battery?
Yes, the checkbox with attack with weapon.
Did defendant Walsh report anything in the other field under assailant battery?
No.
As you move to the right on that report, do you see a section for assailant deadly force?
Yes.
Did defendant Walsh report anything under assailant deadly force?
Yes, the checkbox for use force likely to cause death or great bodily harm, and the checkbox for weapon.
Did defendant Walsh report anything in the other field under assailant deadly force?
No.
Defendant Walsh furnished this information on the first page of Walsh TR1 to the Chicago Police Department.
Yes.
The court's permission, may I show People's Exhibit Gaffney TR1 to the witness, which is tab 12.
Yes.
Mr. Perfetti, I'm showing you Gaffney TR1. Could you tell us what that is?
Tactical response report for RD number HX 475653.
Is Gaffney TR1 an official police report of the Chicago Police Department?
Yes.
On the bottom left-hand side of the report, who submitted Gaffney TR1 as the reporting member?
Thomas Gaffney.
When did defendant Gaffney report? When did Gaffney submit report Gaffney TR1?
21 October 2014 at 05:15 hours.
Your Honor, the state offers People's Exhibit Gaffney TR1 in evidence.
Any objection, Mr. McKay?
Same objection.
Thank you, Mr. Pugh
Same.
and Mr. Fahey.
No objection.
Okay, so for Mr. McKay and Mr. Pugh, your objections are noted. They're overruled at this time for the same reason the court stated before. So Gaffney TRR1, the identification marks are stricken and it is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
What date and time did defendant Gaffney report for the incident?
20 October 2014, 21:56 hours.
What address did defendant Gaffney report for the occurrence?
4000 half South Love Avenue, Chicago, Illinois.
Who did defendant Gaffney report as the member involved?
Gaffney Thomas.
Who did defendant Gaffney report as the subject?
McQuan McDonald.
Did defendant Gaffney report or mark anything in the reason for use of force section?
Yes.
In the subject's actions, did defendant Gaffney report anything under the active resistor section?
Nothing under active resistor.
Did defendant Gaffney mark that the subject had fled?
No.
Did defendant Gaffney report anything in the other field?
No.
Did defendant Gaffney report anything in the assailant assault section?
Yes. Do a checkbox for imminent threat of battery.
Did defendant Gaffney report anything in the other field under assailant assault?
No.
Do you see again to the right a separate section labeled assailant battery?
Yes.
What did defendant Gaffney report under assailant battery?
D, checkbacks for attack with weapon.
Did defendant Gaffney report anything in the other field under assailant battery?
No.
In the next column to the right, you see a separate section called assailant deadly force.
Yes.
What did defendant Gaffney report under assailant deadly force?
The checkbacks for uses force likely to cause death or great bodily harm, and the checkbacks for weapon.
Did defendant Gaffney write anything in the other field?
No.
Defendant Gaffney furnished the information on page 1 of Gaffney TR1 to the Chicago Police Department. Is that right?
Yes.
With the court's permission, may I show People's Exhibit Van Dyke TR1 to the witness, which is tab 13 of the binder.
Yes.
Mr. Perfetti, I'm showing you Van Dyke TR1. Could you tell us again what that is?
Tactical response report for RD number HX 475653.
Is that the same RD number that defendant March reported as a justifiable homicide back in October 2014?
Yes.
Is Van Dyke TR1 an official police report of the Chicago Police Department?
Yes.
Who submitted Van Dyke TR1 as the reporting member on the bottom left-hand side?
Jason Van Dyke.
When did Jason Van Dyke submit Van Dyke TR1?
21 October 2014 at 04:41 hours.
Your Honor, the state offers People's Exhibit Van Dyke TR1 in evidence.
Any objection, Mr. McKay?
You have the same objection as I made before.
Okay, Mr. Pugh?
Our objection.
Okay,
Judge,
Mr. Fahey?
Judge, we join in that objection.
Okay, the objection is noted. It's overruled. For the same reason stated before, and regarding the hearsay, it's overruled
Thank you, Your Honor.
at this time.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So Van Dyke TRR1 is admitted. The identification mark is stricken.
What did Jason Van Dyke report for the date and time of the incident?
Date incident 20 October 2014, 21:57 hours.
What did Jason Van Dyke report for the address of the incident?
4112 South Plasker Road, Chicago, Illinois.
Who did Jason Van Dyke report as the member involved?
Van Dyke Jason.
Who did Jason Van Dyke report as the subject of the incident?
Laquan McDonald.
Did Jason Van Dyke report or mark anything in the reason for use of force section?
Yes.
And again, looking at the subject's actions with this report, did Jason Van Dyke mark or report anything under active resistance?
No.
Did Jason Van Dyke mark or report that the subject, Laquan McDonald, had fled?
No.
Did Jason Van Dyke write anything in the other field?
No.
Moving to the right-hand side, did Jason Van Dyke report anything in the assailant assault section of the report?
Yes, the checkbacks for imminent threat of battery.
Did Jason Van Dyke report anything in the other field?
No.
Again, you see the separate column for assailant battery.
Yes.
What did Jason Van Dyke report in that separate column for assailant battery?
The checkbacks for attack with weapon.
What did Jason Van Dyke report in the other field, if anything, under assailant battery?
Nothing.
To the right of assailant battery in a separate column, assailant deadly force. What did Jason Van Dyke report under assailant deadly force?
The checkbacks for use force likely to cause death or great bodily harm, and the checkbacks for weapon.
Did Jason Van Dyke report anything in the other field under assailant deadly force?
No.
Jason Van Dyke furnished this information on page 1 of Van Dyke TR1 to the Chicago Police Department.
Yes.
With the court's permission, may I show People's Exhibit Walsh OBR 1 to the witness, which is tab 14 of the binder.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Perfetti, I'm showing you Walsh OBR 1. What is that?
Officer's battery report for RD number HX 475653.
Is Walsh OBR 1 an official report of the Chicago Police Department?
Yes.
On the second page of the report, who submitted Walsh OBR 1 as the reporting member?
Joseph Walsh.
Your Honor, the state offers People's Exhibit Walsh OBR 1 in evidence.
Any objection, Mr. McKay?
Your Honor, the same objection. The absence of the conspiracy.
Thank you, Mr. Pugh. Mr. Fahey? All right, your objections are noted and overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh, we put on the record that the identification mark is stricken and it will be admitted. You may proceed.
Turning back to page 1, what date and time did defendant Walsh report for this incident?
Date of occurrence is 20 October 2014 at 21:57 hours.
What address did defendant Walsh report?
The address occurrence 4112 South Glasgow Road.
How many officers did defendant Walsh report in the field for number of officers death?
3.
How many officers did defendant Walsh report in? If yes, how many assisting officers were present at time of battery, excluding you or your partners?
8.
A little down on that report, did defendant Walsh report anything in manner of attack?
Yes.
What did defendant Walsh report in manner of attack?
Check box number 3, stab, cut, including actual attempt.
Did defendant Walsh report anything in the other field under manner of attack?
No.
Did defendant Walsh report anything in the type of weapon / threat portion of the report?
Yes.
What did defendant Walsh report in the type of weapon / threat?
Check box H, other, swinging knife.
And swinging knife is typed in the other section.
Yes.
Defendant Walsh furnished this information to the Chicago Police Department.
Yes.
With the court's permission, may I show the witness People's Exhibit Gaffney OBR 1, which is tab 15 of the binder.
Yes.
Mr. Perfetti, I'm showing you People's Exhibit Gaffney OBR 1. What is that?
Officer's battery report for RD number HX 475653.
Is Gaffney OBR 1 an official police report of the Chicago Police Department?
Yes.
Who submitted Gaffney OBR 1 as the reporting number?
Thomas Gaffney.
During the state offers People's Exhibit Gaffney OBR 1 in evidence.
Any objection, Mr. McKay?
Your Honor, same objection.
Okay, any objection, Mr. Pugh?
Your Honor,
Any objection, Mr. Fahey?
no objection.
All right, your objections are noted but overruled. Gaffney OBR 1, the identification marks are stricken and it is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. What date and time did defendant Gaffney report for the incident?
Date of occurrence 20 October 2014, 21:56 hours.
What address did defendant Gaffney report for the occurrence?
4000 half South Carlove Avenue.
On this report, how many officers did defendant Gaffney report in number of officers there?
3.
In this report, how many officers did defendant Gaffney report If yes, how many assisting officers were present at time battery, excluding you or your partners?
8.
What did defendant Gaffney report in manner of attack?
Checkbox C, knife, other cutting instrument, and checkbox H, which is other swinging knife.
Did defendant Gaffney report anything in the other field of 5?
No.
And for type of weapon threat, H, other, did defendant Gaffney type in swinging knife?
Yes.
Defendant Gaffney furnished this information to the Chicago Police Department. Is that right?
Yes.
With the court's permission, may I show People's Exhibit Van Dyke OBR 1, which is tab 16 to the witness.
Yes.
Mr. Perfetti, I'm showing you Van Dyke OBR 1. What is that?
Officer's battery report for RD number HX 475653.
Is Van Dyke OBR 1 an official report of the Chicago Police Department?
Yes.
On the second page, who submitted Van Dyke OBR 1 as the reporting member?
Jason Van Dyke.
Your Honor, the state offers People's Exhibit Van Dyke OBR 1 in evidence.
Any objection to Mr. McKay?
Same as before, yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Pugh,
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Fahey.
Yes, Your Honor, we're objecting.
All right, your objections are noted but overruled. The identification marks are stricken on Van Dyke OBR 1, and it is admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. What date and time did Jason Van Dyke report for the incident?
Date of occurrence 20 October 2014, 21:57 hours.
What address did Jason Van Dyke report?
4112 South Pulaski Road.
On this report, how many officers did Jason Van Dyke report in number of officers battered?
3.
In this report, how many assisting officers did Jason Van Dyke report in? If yes, how many assisting officers were present at time battery, excluding you and your partners?
8.
Did Jason Van Dyke report anything in manner of attack?
Yes. Checkbox number 3, stab cut.
Did Jason Van Dyke report anything in field 5, other?
No.
Did Jason Van Dyke report anything in type of weapon / threat?
Yes. Checkbox C, knife, other cutting instrument. Checkbox H, other swinging knife.
In checkbox 8, under other, Jason Van Dyke typed in swinging knife.
Yes.
Jason Van Dyke furnished this information to the Chicago Police Department.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Perfetti. Let's turn to detective, investigative, and permanent retention files of the Chicago Police Department. That sound fair?
Yes.
Right.
Could you briefly describe for us what a permanent retention file is of the Chicago Police Department?
Permanent retention file is basically any and all original reports under a specific RD number that would be stored, obviously, under that RD number.
Could you tell the court what a detective investigative file is?
Detective investigative file would be a file that the detective or area maintains in relation to that specific RD number that will contain copies of case reports, sub-reports, GPRs, and things of that manner.
Who in the area keeps the detective investigative file for a given incident?
Typically the detective.
What is kept in a detective investigative file by the detective?
There would be things such as the copy of the original case incident report, any supplementary reports, any GPRs, crime scene processing reports, maybe some notes,
Communications regarding the incident,
communications regarding the incident,
inquiries regarding the incident.
inquiries regarding the incident.
Are the official police
I'm sorry,
report,
counsel.
Your Honor, maybe we take a moment.
I think the court, do you need to charge your battery?
Yes, thank you.
Let us know when are you ready?
Yes, thank you.
You may proceed.
Are the official police reports and records that you have testified about today kept in the permanent retention files, detective files for this incident,
Yes,
as well as other reports and other records?
yes,
May Chicago Police Department officers correct false information contained in official reports or records?
could you repeat that?
May Chicago Police Department officers correct or make a report to correct false information contained in official police reports or records?
Yes,
May Chicago Police Departments make a report regarding false information to the Record Services Division?
can they make a report? Yes,
Mr. Perfetti, can we talk about the rules and regulations of the Chicago Police Department?
yes,
You testified earlier, you are bound by the rules and regulations of the department.
yes,
With the court's permission, may I show People's Exhibit CPD Rule 1, which is tab 17 for the witness?
Yes.
Mr. Perfetti, I'm showing you People's Exhibit CPD Rule 1. What is that?
this is the rules and regulations of the Chicago Police Department.
What is the effective date of these rules and regulations?
The effective date is 12 January 2011.
What is the first paragraph of the rules and regulations of the Chicago Police Department state?
Pursuant to authority vested in it by statutes of the state of Illinois and the ordinances of the city of Chicago, the police board hereby publishes the following rules and regulations for control, disposition, and governance of employees of the Chicago Police Department. This police board action of 13 December 1973, unless otherwise indicated, continues in effect all previous rules and regulations not inconsistent herewith.
Thank you, Mr. Perfetti. Could you turn to page 8 of the rules and regulations? And let us know when you're there.
Okay.
What does Rule 1 prohibit?
Violation of any law or ordinance.
On the next page, page 9,
Okay.
what does Rule 14 prohibit?
Making a false report, written or oral.
Farther down on page 9, what does Rule 21 prohibit?
Failure to report promptly to the department any information concerning any crime or other unlawful action.
Right under it, what does Rule 22 prohibit?
Failure to report to the department any violation of rules and regulations or any other improper conduct which is contrary to the policy, orders, or directives of the department.
Could you turn to page 10 and let us know what you're doing?
Okay.
What does Rule 41 prohibit?
Disseminating, releasing, altering, defacing, or removing any department record or information concerning police matters except as provided by department orders.
Your Honor, the state offers CPD Rule 1 in evidence.
Any objection, Mr. McKay?
No.
Mr. Pugh?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Fahey?
No, Judge.
The identification marks will be stricken on CPD Rule 1. It is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Perfetti, may I show you, oh, sorry, Your Honor, with the court's permission, may I show People's Exhibit CPD Rule 2 to the witness,
Yes,
which is the final tab, tab 18.
yes.
Mr. Perfetti, I'm showing you People's Exhibit CPD Rule 2. What is that?
Rules and regulations of the Chicago Police Department.
What is the effective date?
Effective date is 16 April 2015.
Then objection relevance, Judge. After the fact. How about the ruling right at the time of October 20th, 2014?
I am noting your objection, Mr. Watson.
Your Honor, the rules require an officer to report promptly to the department information concerning any crime or unlawful act. The defendants have not corrected the false information in their report.
Your objection's noted but overruled. Mr. Pugh, same objection.
Same, Your Honor.
Mr. Fahey, same objection.
Yes, Judge.
All right, your objections are noted but overruled. You may
Alright.
proceed.
The state offers People's Exhibit CPD Rule 2 in evidence.
Okay, any objection? Mr. Oh, I just did that. Mr. McKay, you have the same objection.
Yes,
Mr. Pugh, Mr. Fahey. All right, your objections are noted but overruled. CPD Rule 2, the identification marks are stricken. It is admitted.
Mr. Perfetti, CPD Rule 2 was effective from 12 January 2011 to 16 April 2015. Is that right?
Yes.
And then what's shown on People's Exhibit CPD Rule 2 was effective from 16 April 2015 to this day.
Yes.
Does People's Exhibit CPD Rule 2 set forth the same rules, Rule 1, 14, 21, 22, and 41, which we discussed in People's Exhibit CPD Rule 1?
Yes.
And to this day, Mr. Perfetti, do the rules require an officer to report promptly to the department information concerning any crime or other unlawful action,
Yes.
including false information in official police reports?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Okay, it's 2:05. Court's in recess for a lunch break until 3:05.